The reason that I've had the kind of success that I've had in my life is simply because I understand that iteration is how we make cultural progress. It's what I call the physics of progress. Most people, when they're running the physics of progress, when they get to the point where they have to evaluate their results, they end up lying to themselves and making it somebody else's fault. Now, the physics of progress are really simple. It's the scientific method recontextualized for whatever goal you're trying to achieve. If you have information that can inform that hypothesis, that is much better. But if you don't, when you're beginning, call it your best guess. You're taking your best guess as how you go from where you are to achieving your goal. There is inevitably going to be an obstacle in your way, and your best guess is about what do I need to do to overcome that obstacle to make meaningful progress towards my goal. Then you're going to turn that hypothesis into something that you can actually do, and then you're going to get a result from that thing. It is almost certainly going to fail to some extent, which is fine.
Need motivation? Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because I need them. Because I don't always wake up and feel motivated to go take on the day. And the thing that saves me, that helps me every day, is being around people who are thinking bigger, who are changing the world, and it gives me a little more inspiration to go after my mission. And so I hope this video helps you go after yours today too. So today let's learn from one of the best, Tom Bilyeu, and my take on his top 10 was a success. Enjoy.
Failure is the most information-rich data stream on planet Earth, but you have to learn from the failure. To learn from the failure, you have to be willing to admit that you made one. Most people will not admit that they made a mistake, and so they get stuck at that level. And in that moment, they say, it was the world. It's because I was born in the wrong time. My parents were dumb. The world doesn't want somebody who looks like me to succeed. Whatever excuse they use to make it somebody else's fault. Now remember, the most terrifying thing about excuses is that they are valid. I'm not saying that those things aren't real. I'm not saying that the world isn't trying to hold some people back. I'm just saying it doesn't matter. You have to overcome it no matter what. So in the moment where you tried this thing and it didn't work, don't spend your time and energy focusing on how something else stopped you. Even though I will grant you, it's true. The world is trying to stop everybody from doing everything. It just is the reality. Accomplishing something meaningful is freakishly difficult. So don't focus on that it's more difficult for you. It just doesn't matter. You're just going to have to work harder. You either want to accomplish that thing in your life, or you don't, and you're going to give up. That's the reality. The people that get what they want are the people that absolutely demand that they're going to keep going until they get that thing. So in that moment, when you're very tempted to focus on how other things have stopped you, you're not going to. What you need to do is be consistent. So in that moment, you're going to say, what could I have done differently to get a better result? And that's when the physics of progress loops. Now you come up with a more informed hypothesis. You learned your lesson. You figure out what you need to do that's going to be a little bit better than last time. You turn that into a thing that you can do. You do that thing. It will fail to some extent. You stare nakedly at your inadequacies. You figure out what you need to do to make it a little bit better. And the process begins again. That is why you have to be consistent. But the reality is that most people break. Most people cannot go from failure to failure without a loss of enthusiasm. They end up breaking. They end up thinking that either there's something wrong with them or that the world is against them. And because they don't want to deal with the pain and suffering of having to face their own inadequacies, or they give up because they just think that the world is against them, they don't make progress, because you have to be able to fail a lot to learn from those failures. If I'm right that humans as a species have chosen culture as the learning mechanism, then you have to run the loop that culture demands, which is to try something. It fails, you iterate, and you get better. That works at the societal level over millennia, and it works at the individual level in an acute thing where you just have to figure out why didn't that work and keep going. But the truth is, difficulty, boredom, struggle, pain breaks almost everyone that it touches. And I will remind us all, 92% of people fail to achieve the goal they set for themselves. And the reason is that all of that difficulty just stops people because they don't have the right mindset. They don't realize that they need to fail. They don't realize that failure does not make them a failure. So you're going to have a ton of failure in your life. You have to contextualize it as the most advantageous thing that could happen to you.
Rule number 2 is acquire knowledge.
When people ask me, what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self? First of all, I'd grab that by the lapel because I have very little time to make a deep impact. And I would say, you have one mission. You're going to go give the following speech to as many people that you respect as humanly possible. Find the person that's living your ideal life and tell them, I will work for you for free for the next 90 days. I will work harder and smarter than anyone ever. Nothing will be beneath me. I will pick up dog shit. I will take out your trash, whatever you want. And I will make you believe in a higher power just by how hard I'm working. You won't be able to understand how one human could be this driven. Then deliver on that, actually work that hard, actually be that down for anything, ride or die, and then tell them, all I want in exchange for this is knowledge and connections. I don't want money, don't pay me anything. At the end of the 90 days, because I have to eat, at the end of the 90 days, if I've made myself so valuable to you that you would rather pay me than lose me, then bring me on payroll. If not, we shake hands and we part ways. If you are diehard, that will work, man. That will work. But right now, we're in an era and culture where I'm worried for people because they're so like tit for tat that they don't want an internship. They want to get paid. Listen, fine.
And equity. And equity.
Right. It's like, it doesn't matter to me. I'm already rich. Like, this isn't a thing that like hurts me somehow or woe is me. This is like a guy whose life is predicated on being able to help other people live their best life. I'm telling you, my biggest piece of advice, go learn. Go learn.
Rule number 3 is build your network.
Having a network like you do, what has that done as far as opening up doors? How has that helped you learn? Why is it important to have like a big network, and how has that helped you in your life?
Well, so what's interesting is I've really come to the power of having a network very late in my life. It is not a skill that I have naturally at all. My wife is much better. But ultimately, you end up doing business with people that you like and that you trust. And so as you're building relationships over time, they just end up becoming these incredible deals that expand your reach and expand especially now, the universe I'm in media, they expand the kind of attention that you can get for your project, the different directions that you can take something. So as we build out the game portion of what we're doing now and being able to collaborate with other game developers because we know each other and trust each other, like that kind of thing goes a long way. And so it goes from this thing doesn't exist to now this whole like thing that we're doing. We have an upcoming partnership that unfortunately I can't announce yet, but dude, it's with, I mean, the person is just unbelievably famous. And to have gotten into that world and gotten to know their team, because they've unfortunately passed away, but to get to know their team and all that, it's really pretty extraordinary, and was born not just of like business mathematics, but born of like human connection. And so that kind of stuff magnifies out 1,000-fold.
Rule number 4 is know your mission.
Our mission statement is to pull people out of the matrix at scale through story. And so we want to invisibly introduce a growth mindset to them through characters that they, will hopefully grow up with and love. Our sweet spot is 11 to 15-year-olds, which is very anathema to where Web3 is at now, but I don't think it is, it's going to stay that way for long. And so that's a big focus for us. But yeah, right now in the Western world, your zip code is the #1 predictor of your future success. And I think, given that that's even more predictive than your IQ, this isn't an intelligence thing. This is an ideas problem. And so with my passions, talent, and skills, that was the only way that I could see to meaningfully contribute to that problem. And I really think that just like stories have impacted me by introducing me to ideas. And the example I always give is Star Wars introduced me to Yoda, Yoda introduced me to the Tao Te Ching, and then Taoism changed my life. And so we want to have that kind of flow where you can introduce people to some pretty incredible ideas, but you have to do it through pure entertainment. We are not an edutainment company. This is about entertaining people. And it just so happens that if you take Yoda's advice, your life will be better.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
Rule number 5 is deal with adversity.
Once I realized that I could just get better at sitting in this emotion. I don't have to run from this emotion. Then you begin to get stronger. You become more capable of facing things. Then if you have a value system that says, hey, Tom, don't be weak. That feeling of you want to run and hide, stop, man up, face it, sit in it, do not allow yourself. And then when I do it, I'm like, bro, this is why you are you. This is why you've accomplished what you've accomplished. Because in this moment, everybody else runs. In this moment, everybody else breaks. In this moment, everybody else becomes so insecure that they go chase distraction, but you don't. You sit here, even when I go to the dentist and it hurts, I open my mouth wider and I'm like, get in there. I don't flinch. I don't try to pull back. I'm like, yeah, baby. Get that drill in there. Go on, scrape it, get down to the bone, even though it hurts and my every impulse is to pull away. If I'm dealing with something and it makes me anxious, I won't blade. Blading is where you turn sideways to something. When somebody does that to you, they're either intimidated by you, they're stressed, whatever. I will face that thing head on, literally and figuratively. If something is terrifying me, I'm like, I'm in this. I'm not running from this. I'm dealing with this. When I've got a hard thing that I don't want to do, which is almost always contracts, I'm like, here we go. We're going to do these contracts. I'm going to do this contract at 3 a.m. When everybody else, they wake up, and actually they're sleeping. Who are we kidding? They're still asleep. I'm up. I'm looking at a contract, and I am emotionally rewarding myself to the ends of the earth for doing that.
Rule number 6 is develop a growth mindset.
I start developing a growth mindset, and I meet these 2 guys who were very successful entrepreneurs, and I'd promised myself 2 things as a kid. One day I'll be rich, and one day I'll have 6-pack abs. Now, I had no idea how I was going to have either of those. My family was morbidly obese. And I just thought, hey, I'm going to make it happen somehow. So I meet these 2 guys. They're successful entrepreneurs. So they were very wealthy. And they were bodybuilders. So they were yoked. I thought, this is perfect. And so they said, look, man, we need a copywriter. Why don't you come with us? They gave me the famous line, you're coming to the world with your hand out, and if you want to control the art, you have to control the resources. So come with us and get rich. And they said, you can have any job in this startup company. It was a tech company that we're starting. You can have any job you want. You just have to become the right person for the job, which means you're going to have to develop skills. And so I took them at their word. Everyone thought I was crazy, you're leaving the security of teaching for these crazy guys. Are you sure it's even real? And I just thought, I don't have anything to lose. I don't even understand the pushback. In the off chance that this is all real and that they're really going to create this entrepreneurial opportunity for me, I'm at least going to learn something, even if it's what to look out for the next time. So I went with them. It ended up being this extraordinary, just really brutal boot camp of business, if I'm completely honest, because they didn't give a shit. You're either going to do the work or you're not. We're not going to mollycoddle you. We're not going to waste time. Here's what needs to be done. Go figure it out. And that ended up being exactly what I needed. So over the next 15 years, I figured out business.
Rule number 7 is get a coach.
What were some of the entrepreneurial advice today that you wish you could have given yourself back then, knowing what you know now?
Okay, so one, when you're building something that you don't know your way around, rather than trying to figure out everything yourself, there are a lot of people out there that already know this, and you can actually save a lot of money by paying some money up front to get somebody who can come in and tell you what all the pitfalls are. Yeah. So when I was starting Impact Theory, what I did was taking that lesson from Quest, I started hiring people to tell me why I was going to fail. And so we were getting into comics as a great example. And I was like, okay, most people go to somebody that's been there, done that, they're ahead of them, and they say, okay, what do I need to do to be successful? And I started asking people a different question, which is, why am I going to fail? Now, the reason I wanted to ask that was, one, I wanted to give them permission to be negative so that they would tell me, like, here are all the real things that are coming for you. because it's going to be that unknown that I didn't know anything about, I wasn't prepared for, and don't know how to handle. So getting people to go, oh, okay, here are the landmines you're probably not expecting, that was enlightening and literally shaved years off of our learning curve. So that would be a big one.
Rule number 8 is learn about Web3.
When you have these business conversations with folks who you are like, oh, wow, nobody actually really knows Web3 and we're in our little bubble, does it click for 99% of people when you put it like that? Or
when I walk them through a scenario, and I may have done this the last time we were together, so I'll be quick, but the scenario I always walk people through is, okay, imagine that you are an Impact Theory founder's key holder, and you go to your local mall, and on the little kiosk there is a QR code from Impact Theory. Your phone buzzes to let you know that you're near one of our QR codes. You take it out, you take a snapshot of the QR code, and now either on your phone or depending on what year this is, your face or Meta glasses that you're wearing, you look down and you see a dotted line on the floor. And your friend standing next to you, who was not wise enough to get a founder's key, is like, what are you looking at? And you're like, you don't have a key, so you don't see the dotted line. But you follow the dotted line. You go around the corner, and around the corner is a giant mech from Project Kaizen. And it's obviously virtual, but you see this mech, your friend doesn't. And the reason you see that mech is because that's the item that you own from Project Kaizen. And in its hand, it's holding a quest bar. And the virtual quest bar is just spinning. You collect that virtual quest bar. It shows up as an NFT in your wallet there on your phone. And then a new dotted line appears on the floor. And that leads you over to GNC. You go to GNC and you can trade that NFT, burn it, and trade for an actual real quest bar. Now, while we haven't built that out yet, all of that technology exists today except for the glasses. So you could do that right now today. And if that's what we can do today, where does this go? And whenever I walk people through that, they're like, oh my God. And then we show them, because for Project Kaizen, we've created 900 unique, fully rendered AAA game quality 3D assets that are rigged, physics, the whole nine. It's insane. It took an obscene amount of time and a whole lot of money. But we built out this whole world, essentially, or at least the characters in the world thus far. And when they see those assets, and they're like, wait, that's what I would be seeing if we were doing an AR experience, or that's what I'm going to see inside the avatar creation engine. It's like, yes. And because it's rigged, I could show up, I could do a live YouTube show right now as my character from Project Kaizen. That would mocap to me, and I can move and make it walk around and talk, and the lips would sync. This is what we can do today. So this is only going to get crazier and crazier. So when you abstract it from the technology and you just describe what people are going to be interacting with in the next 12 to 18 months, that's when people are like, whoa.
Rule number 9 is push yourself.
I had to toughen up. That was my journey as an entrepreneur. I was so soft in the beginning. So I had to build in these rules and value systems and all that. So anyway, I decided that I'm going to value hard things. Taking a cold shower with Wim Hof and his thing saying that breathing and this cold exposure can give you control of the autonomic nervous system, which I have not been disciplined enough to get that far. But doing the cold exposure has changed how I feel about myself, because I do it every day, and every single day it sucks. Every day I do not want to do it. And every day I'm like, you're not going to hesitate. And because I have that rule of I do not hesitate, I get in the shower, I turn the water on, it is cold, and I stand in that thing and I wash in cold ass water. And that's that. There's no two ways about it. There's no arguing, no discussion. It's like, and knowing every day I'm not going to want to do it. And every day I'm kicking up excuses.
So it's on mindset. Obviously, you live in it. You're walking it every day. You hate to work out, but yet you work out 5 days a week.
Correct.
Tell us about that.
Again, it comes down to rules. So I used to, anybody with kids, you might want to get them out of the room at this point. But for me to work out and to change my physique, I had to imagine that someone was trying to sexually assault my wife. And so
that seems extreme.
It is extreme, and it was just what I needed. I didn't want to be there. And changing your body is hard. It is hard, man. To add muscle is hard. And so to go in and do something that I don't value intrinsically, I had to have something. And so my wife and I would work out at the gym together, and I would just stare at her the whole time and think about being too weak to stop somebody from attacking her. And so that just pushed me and pushed me and pushed me.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is get obsessed.
Your life is a confusing mess right now, and that will manifest as negative emotion. It's all going to pass. I've glimpsed your future. It all works out. It's amazing. Your life becomes wonderful because as you get older, you're going to gain control of your emotions. As you gain control of your emotions, you're going to gain control of your time. As you gain control of your time, you're going to acquire skills. As you acquire skills, you're going to be able to do things that other people can't do. Like that really is the loop. And so as people get older, the reason that they tend to be happier and more self-assured is they realize the rules of the game, that you can just really get better at this stuff and you can get good. And so I want people to hear that. But my thing is like, dude, you've really got to be obsessed with what you want to accomplish. And so if I could get you to understand, bro, all your dreams that maybe the scale will be off. Maybe you want to be the greatest and you become, 1,142, but out of 7.4 billion, that's really pretty cool. And so that's going to be the ride of your life, but you have to get obsessed. And the only reason that obsession is fun is because you actually know you're going to make progress. It's when you're obsessed and things aren't going well and you don't realize it's just a matter of time. And so like right now, dude, I am really emotionally worried for people that don't understand the economy is going to turn back around. Wars end, like they're devastating. I don't wish it on anybody, but this too shall pass. It's like the great Buddhist phrase of all time. This too shall pass. If you knew that, yeah, the next 3 years are going to suck, but after that, it's going to be dope, man. And there's going to be a stretch of 7 years that are nothing but awesomeness. But then you're going to go through an 18-month period. One of your loved ones is going to pass away and that's going to be brutal. But then you're going to have a stretch of 6 years. It's going to be awesome. Then you're going to have 4 years of just total suck. But through it all, you're going to be getting better and better at managing your emotions. So through it all, all is going to be well. That's the joy, man. And so the thing I'm always trying to get people to understand, you'll never get what you want out of life. You're never going to accomplish the things that you want unless you are obsessed. Obsession will hurt and it will be unhealthy unless you realize that you can get better. And if you value yourself for already being good, right, better, faster, stronger, life will be a misery no matter what. And so far better to focus on, did I leave it all out on the field today, right? So value yourself for how hard you went after something, not for what you accomplished. And then let yourself get obsessed with something because you'll get better over time. I think that getting your thoughts in the right place is hugely important. And if I were diagnosed with cancer, let me tell you, I would be go do or don't do.
You would do chemo.
I would do all of it.
Everything, 100%.
Yes.
So would I. And it's not about not using modern medicine. It's about being wise and smart and doing what you need to do. Again, I try to find every tool possible to heal myself or to overcome pain. I would use every tool imaginable. I would eat perfectly. I would think the right way. I would do the modern medicine. I would do all of it.
I have a feeling, and this is a guess, and I fully recognize there are things I just don't understand, but I have a guess that your thoughts really matter. They have a huge impact on your biology, but at the end of the day, this is just a cellular game, and that your thoughts are affecting your biology,
100%.
and thusly one needs to be thoughtful about that.
Yes.
My take.
Do you think you can make yourself sick with your thoughts?
That is clear.
So do you think you could heal yourself with your thoughts if you can make yourself
but I
sick?
think you can undo the things you can think your way into. You can probably stop creating. You almost certainly can stop creating more problems through the thoughts. But the reality is,
you could have reversed the sickness.
You probably could reverse some of it, but the reality of the way take a cancer cell, for instance. So in fact, maybe an even easier one. If you think about the microbiome is very treatable through diet and things like that until you start getting biofilms, and the microbiome can actually protect itself by creating like this slime that will stop things from being able to penetrate it. So there really is a sort of point of no return where it's like, hey, maybe like your stress, because levels of stress are going, as far as I know, the literature backs up that stress levels will impact cancer. And so that is you getting into a state that's creating a problem with your biology. But the biology then can get, and I'm guessing here, I don't know the data well enough, but my gut instinct is that given what I know about how mechanisms can become runaway mechanisms, that
hard to reverse.
Yeah, that there comes a point where you're just not going to think your way out of it.
I agree with that.
So,
after a certain point, for sure, that might be too hard to. The body might have gone too far, and it might be harder to get back.
And that even if you are sort of thinking your way to a root of it that's still solvable, that you're doing it through biology. And so,
yes,
if one was, it's a bit like. If you said, hey, you have to put on 35 pounds of muscle because you're going to start filming a movie in 6 weeks.
It's not going to happen.
I would like steroids, please.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
So even though I can really work out, and no matter what, if I take the drugs or not, I'm going to have to work my ass off. But the odds of me getting there without the intervention are
100%.
basically zero.
We're in a
because this is
three-dimensional world.
Biology game, yeah.
We're in a three-dimensional world, but I feel like our thoughts can influence this world in a big way.
That you and I can agree on violently. Here's the trick to managing both love and business. Step 1, you must choose well. Selection is 80% of the battle in romance. If you can't find someone amazing, masturbate and keep looking, because a bad relationship is worse than no relationship at all. That goes for business and love. Unless you want to split your company up in the divorce, don't mess up this step. It will be ruinous. A business will not bring you together any more than kids will. It will expose your flaws. Most of that is going to be intensely personal. You would probably hate being married to me, but my wife swears that she loves it. Now, maybe there's just no accounting for taste, or maybe we selected well. I'll let you guys be the judge, but here's a criteria that we've refined over the years whenever people ask this question. All right, number 1 selection criteria, it's gotta be love. It's a bit like pornography, hard to describe, but you'll know it when you see it. 2, you have to be committed to maintaining a thriving sex life. 3, you gotta be committed to the relationship as a whole. 4, you both need a growth mindset. 5, you have to share most of your values. You're not gonna share them all, but the vast majority you should share. 6, on balance, they need to be your equal. You're gonna be good at different things, but they need to be your equal. 7, on balance, they need to be emotionally stable. We all fluctuate, but on balance. 8, they need to play a different role than you. It needs to be a complementary role, but they need to play a different role. 9, they need to legitimately want you to be happy. 10, they need to take full responsibility for their actions and their emotional state. All of those are important, but Lisa and I's secret weapon is that we both have a growth mindset. We focus on the relationship and we are constantly trying to improve. We've always been receptive to critical feedback because our goals are clear, that's incredibly important, and we understand that to achieve our goals, we have to constantly be getting better. Constant, never-ending improvement is required if you want to make meaningful progress in your life. Now, if you or your partner doesn't already have that mentality, stop the video now and go address that. You simply will not succeed working with your spouse if you don't both have a growth mindset. I'm telling you right now, you're not good enough to pull this off yet. I think that people that don't face the reality of what they want, their life is going to be very sad. And so what I'm always trying to do, and what I'm trying to get people to understand, go after it. Want to be the best and really go after it. Give it your everything, but don't value yourself on whether you achieve it or not. So the thing that I value myself for, the thing that I reward and punish myself for is, did I show up and play to win? Not did I win? Did I show up and play to win? And since I show up and play to win almost every day, not every day, every now and then I'm off my game, but I play to win, man. And I'm tracking myself from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. And if I'm like, yo, you played to win today. And by the way, I had a good time doing it. I love that. Then I'm good. But as somebody who has succeeded and failed many times, I learned very early to reward myself for the pursuit and not for the accomplishment. I will just say, here's some good advice for anybody, literally no matter what phase of your life you're in. Off the top, pay bills. Then you need to be saving. You want to save as rapidly as you can to get to the point where you have 6 months cash on hand, period. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your value system is. This is just reality. And we're recording this in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis. So
Can anybody say that that would be a bad idea to have 6 months living expenses? Not cut your life to the quick. The way you live now, you can live without changing a thing for 6 months. If you're unable to save, your lifestyle is out of control, and you need to get your lifestyle to a point where you can save up to that. Because you only have two levers, the amount of money you make and the amount of money you spend. That's it, homie. So it's one or the other. Now, that is not something that I was good at when we met. That's certainly something that I've gotten more disciplined over time. But even in the beginning of our relationship, when you were like, hey, it's really, I come from a saving standpoint, I was like, that actually does make sense. Like, I've always been by myself. I've always kept my expenses very low, but there's no question that is a very smart way to approach it.
We need to co-evolve with AI. Remember, AI is a tool. Instead of stepping back and just saying, well, whatever happens, happens. Let's use AI to keep up with AI. It's obvious to me that the path forward is completely unpredictable in the specifics. But directionally, I think it's safe to say that we're not going to outperform AI by ourselves. We're going to need the help of AI itself. To paraphrase Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI, I have no idea how OpenAI is going to become a big business. I'm going to build a superintelligence and then ask it how to do it. Now, he said it tongue in cheek, but it's actually pretty true. Now, putting my doe-eyed, optimistic hat on for a second, there's another critical thing to focus on. In the near future, AI is going to make your life much, much better. It's going to extend your capabilities in ways that will make you feel like a superhero. It's already happening. AI is being used to help doctors, researchers, drivers, pilots, writers, artists, therapists, musicians, soldiers, entrepreneurs, investors, and many, many more. I don't think people fully understand how integrated narrow AI already is. Doctors are going to be able to detect and treat cancer earlier and less invasively. Drugs will be tested virtually, massively speeding up effectiveness and time to market. Energy costs are going to plummet, and that will create a Cambrian explosion in life-saving and life-improving technologies, not the least of which will be the proliferation of access to clean water. I assume you already know about self-driving cars, flying cars, reduced deaths from dangerous jobs, and better emergency response options. It really will be an endless cavalcade of miracles. And that's why this fight is worth fighting. It's worth facing things head on and doing this well. It is going to be amazing and terrifying. But whether it turns into a utopia or a demon summoning circle is going to be up to us, even though we will lose control of our child far too soon, as every parent knows. If we give AI a good foundation, if we're thoughtful about it and don't give in to fatalism, I think we can have just enough influence to make this turning point in history the moment when the rate of progress tilts even stronger towards the good. Just as a long arc of history bends towards justice, I believe the long arc of progress bends towards the good, especially if the bending is intentional.
Meditation is one of the most important things that I've added to my daily routine. I'm not joking when I say that I always say it saved my life. That's probably a bit of hyperbole, but whoa, did it keep me from getting myself into real emotional trouble in the hardest periods of my life and the most stressful, where there was the most on the line. It was so comforting to know that I was never more than 45 minutes away from total equanimity. And the only way for me to achieve that is through meditation. So meditation is a critical part of my daily practice. It is really simple. So I do what's called just breathe meditation. So I'm going to take my shoes off here. Any couch will do, anything that's comfortable, any chair, wherever you're going to be comfy. And I sit just in a nice, simple, cross-legged style in a position that I think I can maintain. Usually I can maintain sitting like this for about 20 to 30 minutes before my feet start going numb. And I found, for whatever reason, that when I touch my hands together, that it creates this sense of like the energy looping. I don't know, that feels so silly to say, but it was one where I started out doing this, and then I just found myself wanting to do this, to rest my hands, not interlace or anything, just really simply in my lap. I sit comfortably. I don't try to,
have like really strict posture. I actually find the more I sit up, the harder it is to breathe from my diaphragm. So I have a slight curve to my spine. I sit super comfortably, and then I just breathe.
Okay, now that the blinds are opening, we can actually see something. So I keep my clothes right there next to my bed, keep headphones right next to my bed. That way I am ready to rock and roll as soon as I get out. First thing I do is put my headphones on. I start listening to a book or a YouTube video. Then I would come in, I would brush my teeth. Again, I did all of this earlier because I didn't want to wake up Lisa, but just by way of recreation, that's it. So I would come in, brush my teeth, then I snatch up the dogs, feed them. Then, as of right now anyway, it would be off to the gym.
The key part of any morning routine is the order in which you do things. So for me, depending on what's going on in my life, I may prioritize the gym or I may prioritize meditation. But one of those two things is almost always going to come first. It's going to be pretty rare that I don't do that. Now, as the time that we're recording this, we're going into the summer, so right now I'm really prioritizing the gym. Also coming off of the quarantine where I was maybe a little bit more lax, hyper-focused on the business. The gym was something that came a little bit later in the day. The problem is, depending on what your priorities are, and mine is definitely marriage first, then business, then physique, that if something crazy is going on in the business and I'm trying to get things done there, then whatever I haven't done first thing in the morning, it's possible that it just doesn't happen. So right now, because I'm really focused on the gym, even though my ultimate priority list hasn't changed, the reason that we're recording this now is because, as you guys know, I wake up so early that there was nobody to film me doing this stuff. But the way that I think about the gym right now, it's the first thing I do. So I wake up, I put my gym clothes on, I immediately beeline to the kitchen. If I'm completely honest, I feed the dogs, and then I will drink a bit of water, and then I head straight to the gym.
I haven't set an alarm in now, geez, how many years has it been? Like 15 years, 16 years, something like that, maybe 17 years at this point. So it has been a very long time since I set an alarm. And I do that for the two reasons that I mentioned before. I do not want the stress of the alarm, that I know it's going to be going off at some point. And then I also want to make sure that I let my body get as much sleep as it needs. So many people live in a chronically sleep deprived state. So make sure that you're really careful about that. And then, like I said before, I work out really hard so that I fall asleep really fast. And then while I don't do anything to diminish the electrical outputs of devices, like I sleep with my phone next to me, obviously I'm listening to a book, so of course I am. I don't turn my Wi-Fi off at night or anything like that. I have not noticed that that's had a big impact, but I will say that there are things out there that indicate that that may be an issue.
This is what I talk about with business and mindset. I always tell people, you have to understand how the game works. And what I mean by that is there's a physics to everything. So there's a physics of business. So thinking from first principles, how these things are actually structured. And I think the big breakthrough, and I've heard you say this, and I think this is really smart, there's a difference between the basics and the fundamentals.
Yes.
The basics is just 101. Yep. So here are the sort of words and phrases that you're gonna need. The fundamentals are the physics. This is how it works. And once you know how something works, then you can get good at it. But if you, and I really think the vast majority of humanity, and I don't care what class you're in, the vast majority of humanity does not understand how the world works. Therefore, they are at the mercy of the world, and the people that figure out how it works can change things. We'd use a negative word, say manipulate, but it really isn't that. Like, this is power. Close your eyes, imagine a world better than this one. Open your eyes, get the skills to make that world come true, and go actually make it come true. That's power. Imagine being able to close your eyes, imagine something, open your eyes, and actually be able to create it. That's power. So whether that's to change, people growing up in the inner cities, whether that's to create generational wealth in your own family, whether that's to learn architecture and build a bridge or a house, whatever. Like, that is the point. But to be able to do that, you have to understand how things work. Take a cold shower. We're doing all of this to accomplish two goals. Toughen up, Buttercup, and cognitively optimize. So working out, as much as it's good for the brain, it's also to show you that you can do hard things, because in your life, you need to be doing hard things.
The other hard thing that you're going to do that's also good for your brain and good for a whole host of other things, including anti-inflammatory, getting all the effects of longevity that come from cold exposure, you're going to get in the cold shower. Now, the amount of time you need to stay in the cold shower is going to depend on the time of year and where you live. Because let me tell you, Minnesota in February is very different than LA in August. The cold temperature in LA in August, not that cold. So, and compared to, and I've actually done this, was it in Minnesota? No, it was Chicago. I did Chicago in the winter. I can't remember exactly what month. And the water hitting my forehead gave me a headache. I was like, damn, this is a whole nother level of cold. So doing that versus in LA was a world of difference. But in LA, I would keep myself in the shower. I think my record was like, oh God, it was somewhere between 12 and 17 minutes. I can't remember. But for, 13 months, I did this every single shower. Weekend, no weekend. Actually, that might be a lie. Every shower Monday through Friday. That's correct. I think on the weekends, I allowed myself a warm shower. Don't hold me to that. I can't remember. But for 13 months, I took so many cold showers, it was horrifying. In fact, I stopped. I promised myself I'd do it for 30 days. I did it for 13 months. I began to resent my shower. But it is extremely powerful for doing things that are difficult. So we're going to do the cold challenge. Expose yourself for the cold as long as you can possibly bear. Extend that period of time. You should be shivering before you get out of the shower, like uncontrollably shivering. That is a good way of knowing if you've been in long enough.
Impact theory is all about when I was 18, I started big brothering for this kid, extraordinary kid, loved him, and was just like, whoa, his zip code is really with his entire life. And I thought, it planted a seed. At the time, I was too young and stupid to really think anything quite too intelligent. I just wanted him to know somebody loved him because he came from a very troubled home. And then flash forward 15 years later, and I've got 1,000 employees that remind me of this kid. And they're growing up in crazy circumstances. Like one guy held his stepfather while he bled to death from a gunshot wound to the head. Another kid saw his sister shot to death in the heart with an AK-47 in his front yard. Another kid hid under a car while his best friend tried to hold his intestines in and bled to death like 8 inches from his face. I mean, it's just like story after story like that. So crazy. And I was like, why don't they get out of this situation? Like, this is crazy. And some of them were objectively more intelligent than I am, meaning they can process raw data more quickly than I can, but they weren't going to do anything with their lives because they didn't have, like, if you think of intelligence as the hardware, they didn't have the operating system, the software to make sense of the world, to operate in a way that would allow them to leverage their intelligence. And so I just got really hardcore about, there's got to be a way to teach this, because I didn't start with business instincts and yet I've built very successful companies. So how do I pass this on? And I found that about 2% of them actually took the information, because I said, look, I will teach you everything I know about business. I will make myself available. I will come in early. I will stay late. We created something called Quest University. Like, I will be way diehard to give you this information. And 2% of them, it changed their lives and their families' lives forever. 98%, on the other hand, did all with the information. And I was just like, this is crazy. So I was very frustrated with this 98% drop off. And I was very willing to accept I was the problem, that I just didn't know how to do this. And I started looking at, how do you change the mindset of somebody who's antagonistic to change? Because, dude, some of the 2% ended up getting in fist fights with people back home because they were like, you've changed, you've sold out. And I was like, this is bananas. So it just brought me back around to where I started, which is actually filmmaking, which is what I leveraged in marketing to help grow Quest. And coming back to the sense, if I could change their self-narrative, if I could change their value system and their beliefs with stories by hitting them on an emotional level, and it's my first passion, my first skill set anyway, could I really do something? And so when I left Quest, I think my last day was a Monday or a Tuesday, and the very next day we started Impact Theory. So it wasn't like I exited and wanted to take time off. Like, I understand meaning and purpose are the primary drivers in anybody's life. No matter how much money you have, meaning and purpose will be the thing that wake you up. And so we started it the next day with the goal of building the next Disney, meaning literal film and TV storytelling, so that we could change over generations sort of what the cultural subconscious celebrates. And if we could get people to celebrate a growth mindset, working hard, being tenacious, personal responsibility, things that have become sort of passé, which I am utterly shocked by, then we could have real impact. And so that's why it's called impact theory, because it is quite literally my theory on how to impact people at scale.
Because you made it this far in the video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome.
For 10 more amazing rules from David Goggins, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
We don't want to suffer. We don't want to feel discomfort. So the whole time, we're living our lives in a very comfortable area. There's no growth in that. So for me, I realized that. The reason I became 297 pounds is because that was comfortable.